Welcome to Split the Defense.
Split the Defense.
LEAFS Postgame Edition. Split the Defense is presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004, serving the Kingston and surrounding areas. Alongside co-host Craig Pearce and producer Ted Evans, here's your host, Jordan Webster.
Austin Matthews scores number 58. Massive nights from Pontus Holmberg and Bobby McMahon. And the Leafs smoke the Oilers. We're back on Split the Defense, Leafs postgame. Thumbs up this episode. Subscribe to our YouTube. Rate us 5 stars. Get us going in the comments here. CP, why don't you take us away with your initial reactions to this one?
Oh, I love this game. This was a good one. I mean, it helps that the Leafs won, but there's something about an Edmonton and Toronto game. I guess it's just like the Matthews McDavid, but it's also the Hyman story. It's the Corey Perry story. It's all of it. So I was into it. At the start, it was like a kind of felt like Edmonton kind of came out with the bigger jump, but I think the early goal kind of turned it around. The Leafs started to dominate. It definitely swung both ways, and I'm not sure the 5-0 going at that point really was the true story of the game, but definitely what I like to see. And really the defense to me was just unbelievable how they were dialed from the beginning. Edmondson just from I think it was just the first minute or two where he got his opportunity to get one in on McDavid, and I don't know, it felt like a team that had the right idea of how you win kind of playoff style games and getting the chips in and everything. And yeah, it was great. I love that. I think Joel Edmondson is my number one star, even though lots of people aren't going to notice him a lot, but just into the areas, getting his shots on McDavid, Draisaitl, just he knows how to play hockey the right way. At least in my eyes, I just love him.
He went absolute 8 shit at one point tonight. He had McDavid holding them back from going to attack after Jack Draisaitl after his slash there.
Yeah.
Edmonton was fired up. Seems to be finding his comfort zone here with this team. Certainly looks to be fitting into the role that we've expected him to take on. I like Joel Edmondson as well. Hell of a game. 5-0 the Leafs started up on, but it really was a battle of the special teams tonight. There were so many penalties called tonight.
I was screaming at points. I hate penalties. It's dumb because a lot of those penalties aren't being called in a month from now. So that's what bugs me is a cross check and a guy goes down soft. In a month that's not gonna be a call. So some of them frustrated me, but I mean I guess you got to see both power plays, which is nice. But just one of those where I just wish that this league would friggin' referee the same way all the way through the season. Well, I guess they do. It's after the season in the playoffs where everything changes. So
that's not even true though. There's a first 20 games reffing, and then there's the middle of the season reffing, and then kind of near the end where it gets really sloppy, and then it just goes away for the playoffs. So really there isn't one consistent set of reffing rules from the beginning to the end. That's just not true. Yeah. So huge nights for Holmberg and Bobby McMahon.
Yeah.
But Nyes was on the top line with Domi and Matthews to start the game, and he ends up getting benched because of a very small mistake, not able to clear the puck. And after that, Holmberg goes in. First shift gets a goal. Keefe keeps him in. Second time, I think it was second or third shift they had out there, Holmberg scores again. Fantastic line with those three on it. Do you not think? That's a good balance. I mean, I don't exactly think that's a playoff caliber top line, but those three players and the styles that they play together work very, very well.
Oh yeah, it definitely works against Edmonton too, where they have such a top loaded line, because the Matthews line didn't have to take the brunt of that defensive role. And so, you don't really have to worry about, Domi and Holmberg having to, be on the ice with Draisaitl and Hyman. So I think like you said, it's not going to work all the time because they're just not that's not high enough caliber for me to have Matthews on that line. But I think that it's great to see Holmberg being able to just jump in anywhere. I feel like he just has this it's like he's not like a true skill player, but like he makes skilled plays, like he's the majority of his game is just forechecking and doing the right things. But once in a while, like he just kind of makes a play towards the middle of the ice, like some sort of stick handle that you don't see from like guys like him. Like you're never going to see Kampf do that. Like even Dewar, you're not going to see Dewar do that. They're more of like they're going to do the simple thing all the time. So yeah, great to see Holmberg being able to fit in. I felt like Nyes didn't deserve to be like off that line for the whole game, but when someone goes in and scores first
goal,
yeah, what can you do, right? So
hard to deny it.
Yeah.
And also not just that top line tonight, but the second line. Now Nylander had a goal. It was on the power play, so it doesn't really count. But if they were up against the best line tonight for the majority of the night, and that's Bobby McMann on that wing, Bobby McMann also gets 2. What did you think of him tonight?
I mean, I just love that they put him back with Tavares. Those two are made to play together. We haven't seen a game where they haven't had some sort of chemistry going. So, like, I think that they need to be stapled together. Like, if you're going to move anyone, move Willie off that line. So, like, I think that, like, last game, I didn't like that Nyes was with them. They've never really played together much, and there wasn't really a great amount of chemistry when you've already seen multiple times that McMann can play up the lineup and his game style plays really well with John Tavares. So yeah, great to see them together. I think that like it's crazy actually to me that they were able to do so well defensively. When like if you tell me those 3 players like to match up with the biggest line of Edmonton, like that seems like going to be a rough night, but they did well. I mean, it's what you have to do when you're kind of short guys. The only other solution was to put, Willie with Matthews, but they just have been, leaning away from that recently. So,
yeah. So you think come game 1 of the playoffs, after seeing what we've seen in the last couple of games, it's definitely going to be the second line of Bobby McMann, John Tavares, and probably William Nylander?
Well, the thing is like it's not like the last couple games because last game they didn't play together. Like Bobby was down on the third line, so like I think it's a no brainer. I think that's a line right there. Like you just chalk that up as your second line, and work the other stuff because like I just think that we've seen that Willie. He doesn't necessarily play his best with Tavares, but he has the most experience playing with him. Like they seem to have figured out a way that they can work together. And like Bobby just seems to work so well with Tavares that it just gels well. So yeah, I'd say like he would lock that one in. Like the only thing, like I can't really see a situation that makes it different unless like Nyes makes it back up to the top line and then Bertuzzi gets bumped down to that spot. And like I wouldn't hate that too, because that was a line that was very successful for like the majority of the season, the first half. Basically, that was the best line on the Leafs, the most production, mostly just because of Willie. But so like I wouldn't hate if Bertuzzi ends up back with Tavares, I guess, but no other option, I think. And I'd not necessarily love the idea of Nyes being on the top line anyway. So I think best case you have Bertuzzi on the top and then Bobby on the second.
Oh, all right. I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, Holmberg obviously can be shifted back down. We're not married to that. But Domi at this point is looking so good that when you have Marner come back, it's really going to be interesting to see what Keefe decides, because us fans here are screaming for Domi to stick up there with Matthews. Like the media has been coming out talking about, or I guess just giving interview quotes of them talking about each other and just how much they like each other off the ice. And they seem to be clicking really well. And I mean, the King of Toronto and Austin Matthews and the kid of Toronto and Max Domi. I don't know. It's not. I mean, he's not from here, I guess, so much as he is born and bred in this franchise. So like, it's hard to not want that to work as a fan.
For sure. Especially because he's had trouble finding a spot, right? Like everybody's been cheering for Domi, and just even when it hasn't necessarily been going great, because the story and like what he brings night in and night out, just he's had trouble finding line mates that suit him well. So yeah, it's one of those where I kind of feel like there's 4 top liners at the moment with like Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi, Marner. And so it's going to suck for the one that doesn't make it on that line, because I think that any 3 of them could be like works really well. But yeah, one of them, like if we're going to put Bobby on the second line, then one of them's on the third line. And I just hope that they don't end up kicking Domi off the line. And worst case is he goes back to center. So like, yeah, I think should stay.
I think like, honestly, at this point, I think you need Mitch back. You need to have a look with Mitch and Domi with Matthews to see how it looks. Because obviously Domi and Marner play the same-ish game with the playmaking ability, the carrying of the puck, and the pushing of the offense. Obviously, Mitch is more well-rounded and more successful offensively. But if you have both those guys on paper, everybody's going to say that's not going to work. So you want Bertuzzi in that spot. But what we really need is Mitch to come back and just get a few games of run here to show that it could work, or that we're crazy and living in la la land and that was never going to work, and that we should just go with the meat grinder on the top. And, a Matthew Nyes, a Tyler Bertuzzi. Something I'm a little more surprised is, and I think it's maybe just because he's emerged so quickly, is that you haven't stapled Bobby McMahon up there during this time.
Like on the top line, you mean?
On the top line.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was surprised that Bobby's done so well in the second line, to be honest. And to keep pushing him up, I think is like asking a bit much of him. But like, I just don't think that with the guys that you have, he's not the first choice to me. So, but Bobby in a situation where you're forced, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about him being up there. But I think you're getting so much out of him at the moment that I wouldn't want to ask him to play like up the lineup too much. Actually, even though he played against McDavid tonight, but it's just one of those where
Justin Hull shut McDavid down a couple times too. So
yeah, that's true. And that never happened after that fact. So yeah.
So something we got to talk about, bad news at the end of the game. Ilya Samsonov, he played phenomenally tonight.
Unreal.
It was 5-0. I wasn't sure he was going to let in a goal. He looked like a different goaltender. He was on his game tonight. He looked fantastic. But at the end of the game, he gets hurt, and, we love to speculate here. So I'm going to say it's got to be something in his groin or hip or, maybe a knee. But, like, he pulled something. He stretched too far on that last play. How do you feel about that going forward for the Leafs?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Sammy from the get-go was just dialed. Like there was one of the iconic shots from the blue line through traffic where he was peeking one way, and he had to save it on the other side. Those like almost always go in, it seems. And he was dialed. When I saw that off the get-go, I thought that he was going to have a good game, and yeah, he impressed. It's not like he had to make like a ton of these like amazing saves, but he was very calm. It looked like Wall out there, to be honest. Like he kind of had a different play style in a way. So I never saw him go like post to post when he wasn't necessarily necessary. And it just, that last play did all over the place. Yeah. The last play though, like that's rough. I mean, those are the ones where it's I'm not sure if he banged like something off the post, if he like overstretched, and it's just one of those
like
tweaks.
A hyperextension to me.
Yeah, same here. Like that's what I was saying in the group chat, and that's rough. I mean, he's just found his game. It's one of those where he had won the spot. Like if the playoffs started tomorrow and he was healthy, he would be the starter. So yeah, this is exactly, I guess, why we have 3 goalies. Like he is the one that's playing the best right now. But I'm not necessarily freaking out that the season's over because, like, you've seen Jones be able to put like on a streak, and Wall is the guy that we ideally want to have the spot. So, I don't
definitively say no. The Leafs aren't in trouble right now.
No, like they're not in trouble. I wouldn't go that far, but I like would rather Sammy be healthy, no question, and we need to see Wall, put on some good performances. So I don't feel great, but I don't think that it's like trouble time. I'm not wishing they went out and got a goalie previously. Is kind of the situation.
Still not good. So yeah, no. Ilya Samsonov, I expect to hear at some point here that Sammy will probably be out for some time. That tweet has not dropped yet, but it's expected at this point that we'll probably hear from Sheldon Keefe saying in the post game or maybe tomorrow. If he comes back, it'd be a miracle. Honestly, it would be a miracle the way he hobbled off the ice. Yeah. So Max Domi got into a fight tonight. That was phenomenal. I didn't even see what or why, and all of a sudden it just broke down. There was probably like 40 scrums in front of the net tonight with a good hyperbole in there. But there was so many scrums. And I was thinking, like, you know, if you guys are just going to keep pushing around, maybe somebody fight about it. And finally they did. And it has to be Max Domi. So did you know Max Domi's 5 fights this season for the Maple Leafs is a career high for Max Domi?
I didn't know that, but that doesn't really surprise me because, like, this guy isn't necessarily a fighter, and yeah, he just cares so much. I'm not sure there's a situation where he's going to turn down a fight, really. Which, like, I hope that, you know, he doesn't go down too far down this path. I think he's doing it perfectly, like, right at the moment. You know, 5 at this point is, like, you know, more than I think I was expecting from him, but he's just winning everyone over big time. And to actually show up and do well in fights is the big thing. Like tonight, like he connected with a couple.
Oh, he got a good one. Yeah. That must have hurt. Mark's going to feel that tomorrow in his jaw.
Yeah, I think Mark. So like there was the icing call like just 2 minutes prior to that, and he was just beaking at the linesman. And I think that Domi and him are coming down the ice, and Domi kind of elbowed him in the jaw area, like a little high, just as they're scrumming. And like Mark just had enough, and obviously Domi's willing to do it. So yeah, I think that it was kind of Mark's temper kind of boiled over, but definitely not the two that I thought were going to go tonight. Like I thought Nurse was going to be the guy on the Edmonton that would go. He seemed to want to prove a point a little bit tonight, but yeah. But I love when Domi fights. Like I was standing. I love it. He's like I don't want to like I just pray that we bring this guy back. Like please bring him back. Like I would bring him back over anyone else. Like at least he cares and is willing to put everything out there. You know.
So what would you give Max Domi for a contract? 5x4?
I saw this conversation happening on Twitter a little bit, and like that's a little bit rich. You know, that's tough to sign. And like, sorry, is that 4 million by 5 years or 5? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a little rich. Like I would do it just based on,
I feel like 3.5 is too little at this point. Like you can't give him 3.5 for 5 years, maybe for 2 or 3, but like, is that what you want to do?
What's an 8-year contract cost?
That he's going to be too old, and you're not going to want to pay for that. Maybe,
million,
although maybe like, what about, who would that be perfect? The Nick Paul deal.
Okay. What's he make?
Like $3 million for 8 years or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 3, like that seems perfect for me.
Because then we don't feel bad when he's not playing anymore in 8 years, paying him that $3 million. But at the same time, he still gets that total number that he's looking for.
I mean, in 8 years, we should be able to bury in a $3 million contract. So, yeah, I wouldn't even blink if he wanted something like that. Like sign on the dotted line. You know, like once he creep towards 4, and if like that's where I'm like, well, I don't know.
Cap's going to be up so much in the next 8 years, though. Like,
I would do whatever.
I was thinking 5 just to not have the contract on the books in a few years. But honestly, with the Leafs money they already have and their ability to hide this kind of shit, like, yeah, sign him to 8, do the Nick Paul deal, and ride him off into the sunset as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the special teams. I brought it up at the beginning of the night. The Leafs have allowed, where is my stat here? 10 goals in the last 9 games on the penalty kill. So tonight's penalty kill was being praised by the broadcast and even on Twitter. And all of us are thinking this penalty kill's looking good, and Joel Edmondson and all these good things. But still, over the past, I think it was 5 games or 6 games since the trade deadline, I looked it up tonight, the Leafs penalty kill is 66%. Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, definitely. We're getting, like, at the beginning of the season when it sucked, it was like, well, we got a lot of time to figure that out. But we're at the point now where you should have been able to figure it out. And we've added some guys that are on the penalty kill. So, like, Dewar's been added, Joel Edmondson's been added, Lyubushkin's been added. They all penalty kill. Like that's their jobs. So it's not nice to see that there hasn't been like a bump. I don't know. This is like when so Joel Edmondson and Draisaitl traded penalties tonight, right? And it was like you would think immediately that that's great for the Leafs, but it's like, well, like Joel Edmondson's might be the best penalty killer. So it gets kind of dicey at that point where it's like, I don't know.
It was
like
4v4 though, wasn't it at that point? I mean, that makes it 4v4. So you're not on the penalty.
They're on the
kill.
power play. No, they're penalty killing at the time.
Okay.
So like, and then they both took one. So then they're still killing the penalty. But it's like one of those where like I'm not sure if that was a great thing for him to do. In normal circumstances, 5-on-5, I take that every day of the week. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like what the solution would be. All the right guys are on the penalty kill. Like I'm not sure, who you swap in or out.
66%. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think a lot of that could just be attributed to Mitch Marner being gone? And do you think that's going to take a swing back up? Now, I mean, for the season, they're riding 77%-ish. Maybe he's gone down since the last time I checked that. But, do you expect an uptick and to not worry once Mitch is back? Or do you have serious concerns about the special teams going into the postseason?
Yeah, it's not just about since Mitch has been gone. Like it hasn't been great all year. So it's like, yeah, we're clearly going to see a little bit of a downtick like when he's out of it, because he is our best penalty killer, like as a forward. So yeah, I'm not sure he fixes the solution. I think they just kind of have a bad penalty kill. I'm not. Yeah.
I feel the same way, CP.
Yeah,
they might just have like bad penalty kill.
Yeah, if you're the first power play in the league, then you can kind of like justify it a little bit and say like, okay, well, like the numbers offset a little bit, but they're also struggling there recently, so it doesn't make you feel much better about it, right?
So Get Well Soon is just going off in the comments, and I love your comments, but I'm not going to read them out right now. You're
That's
amazing,
for sure.
Anyways, so the PK being an issue, having Mitch back on it, I think that I don't think they're going to swing too much, but I wonder if all of that changes when you go into the postseason, starts fresh, and they end up being like one of the best penalty killing teams. The power play is really more where I'm concerned, and I really hope that they can get that going together. But Timothy Liljegren has really, really turned it around. Timmy Lil tonight, he snaps one towards the net. Willie just beautifully tips it between his legs, puts it in for a nice goal there. But in his last 5 games, he's got 5 points. Now, he had struggles coming up to the deadline, and even, when after the deadline passed, the last few games, I'll say his last 3 games, he's looked really good. Before that, he had struggles. 5 points in his last 5 games, and we go, Liljegren's back. Immediately, I see in the comments, 14 points in his past 16 games. So we can't take much out of this point streak. But how do you feel about Liljegren? Do you think he's been turning his game around?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, I don't know. I have the same opinion on him like that I did 20 like games ago. Is that like you're gonna see periods where this guy is amazing, and we're probably gonna see like 2 or 3 games stretches where he's not so hot. So like he's I think gonna float in and out of the lineup in the playoffs. Just because he isn't like, I don't know. I guess that's hard to say when he's on the power play, number 1 power play. But I just think he's the third right shot defenseman. And like currently we would have to get 2 defensemen back in and we like, it's a clear case where Timmins is coming out first, but then like, like who do you take out after that if Brody slots back in and Lyubushkin slots back in? So I think he'll rotate in a bit and here and there. But I've always liked Liljegren. Like he's first of all, he's funny. I find that like the way he talks to the media and stuff like that, I find humor in. And so I like him as a person. And then he just has shown these stretches of like making the right decisions most of the time. And I like a 2-way defenseman. I don't like just an offensive defenseman. And he kind of fits that bill of like, you're supposed to majority of the time be focusing on defense, but like, currently you're on our number 1 power play, and I don't feel weird about it. And like you're almost always going to be on our second power play. So like I think he's a great player to have. Just like the expectations for him just have to be limited. Like we're not looking at a guy over the 3 games that's now going to be slotted on the top pair. Like I think in his role with his new D partner, he's been playing really well. And so like I really like Liljegren, and I hope that he sticks around for a long time. But he's just always going to kind of have those flaws. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, like he's kind of like the perfect $5 million 2-way defenseman. But just like at this point in his career, he is what he is, I think.
Yeah, he looked great tonight, though. 2 assists, 1 on the power play, as we were just talking about. Snap that to Willie. You know, Timmy Lil, I think that he looks more confident, and I don't know if it's like it's not he's holding the puck, it's not that he's making plays. It's just that he doesn't seem to fan as much. He doesn't seem to make such a quick decision when grabbing the puck in his own zone. And I guess really I can't attribute that to him hanging onto the puck a tiny bit more. But you're right. He has been making good decisions lately. But you're telling me that you think that is attributed to just a good stretch, and to not buy into this too much, he's going to just revert back into the pumpkin that he is?
Well, I don't like calling him a pumpkin because like he has definitely some stretches where he plays that way, but for the majority of the time, he's a pretty solid defenseman, and we have stretches where he's really good, you know. So like I just don't want to think that like this is like he's breaking out, because I think we've seen this before. Like when Riley was out, he played amazing for 5 games. You know, then you saw a dip of like 2 or 3 games. Now he's back and he's playing, 2 or 3 great games. So like I'm not saying that I'm not buying into him. I'm just saying that like I like who he is, and currently he's on one of those hot streaks. It's kind of like Matthews scoring. Like Matthews goes on these tears of 20 games, scoring 20 goals, but then like goes 10 games and scores 1. That's similar to how Liljegren plays defense. You know, I don't know.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, so it just concerns me that maybe now we got, what, 11 games left or 12 games left till the end of the season. You go into game 1, round 1. Maybe he plays well for the first round, and then he's just not the same guy. And the Leafs, they don't really have a replacement for him. So I think that's kind of concerning. But he has been looking good lately, and I hope that you're wrong, and I hope that this is just him maturing and finding his role. And, this is an uptick, and next year, his floor is going to be that much higher. And then we just continually see him grow into the player that he's going to be. He's a 24, he's almost 25, I think now.
Right.
So in the next couple of years, we're going to see who Timothy Liljegren is and who he always was. And at that point, we'll be able to make a decision. And there's still time between now and then for him to get so much better. So I think that, these stretches of play are very encouraging to see Tim find his game and settle into those roles. And I honestly, like, I've seen him do this before, so it's just nice to see him, like when he was covering for Mo in the past. I mean, I think it was him and Sandin last year. They both looked great. When he's been elevated in different positions, it seems like he's always taken a step in the right direction rather than the wrong direction. So that's really encouraging, and I just hope that he keeps it up, and then when we go into the playoffs, we just see some sort of beast mode Timothy Liljegren.
That'd be awesome. Like he's made great strides since like when we drafted him. There was a quick decline in his value because like everyone kind of wrote him off, that he wasn't like he didn't have the decision making that was required of a defenseman in the NHL. And then
he had mono too for like the year before he got drafted, right? So he was out for like the whole.
I mean, when he was a Marley. Like actually as a Marley, like he just saw that like, yes, he has some skills and he's a good defenseman.
He was drafted as an offensive defenseman, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he's made the decision to switch that. And like, I think like in episode 1 or something of our show, I was talking about Liljegren and how like, that's one of the things that I love like most about him is that like him and Sandin were like kind of a very similar player. And one of them decided that they were going to become a two-way defenseman, and the other one didn't. And Liljegren's the one that decided to be a two-way defenseman. So, like, I think he's in like the 3 or 4 years since we've started seeing him crack lineups. Like, he's gotten better and better each time, and he's like, raised his hockey IQ. And like, still, we're gonna see like we see those poor decisions once in a while, but yeah, like he's made great strides. And I think when he's 27 to 31. He'll be one of like the more reliable defensemen. And with just this little bit of offensive uptick, and you can put him on to a power play. But yeah, so I think like, yeah, you keep him around and it'll pay off for sure.
For sure.
We've put enough work in on this guy anyway. Like how much the investment's like what, 6 or 7 years at this point since they drafted him.
So. And they really rode him to become this two-way defenseman more than they did Sandin, right? Like they when he was in the Marlies, he's in the AHL. They really developed that side of his game, and there was lots of conversation about that side of his game being developed. And then Sandin was just, so good offensively that they didn't really develop that side of him. Now I would still say at the end of the day, offensively, Sandin is better than Liljegren, but all around, I think Liljegren's now stepped him. Last year, I would have, even before Sandin got traded, I would have said, I'm not sure. I think, it's pretty damn close. But seeing Sandin go into the role that he's in, and Liljegren even in the role he's in, and the way that he's just developed and played, I think that Liljegren's surpassed him, and it was probably the right decision to keep him over Sandin. So tomorrow we are playing the Carolina Hurricanes. We got another back-to-back, 2 back-to-backs this week for the Leafs. What are you expecting in this game? Low-scoring affair, high-scoring affair?
Like somewhere closer to the low-scoring affair, I would assume. I don't know. Like Carolina, to me, I look at that lineup and it's just like a bunch of like, better than average, but no one
mid-city.
Well, I don't like calling because it's like above mid-city.
I called them that.
Yeah,
they're mid-city. They've always been mid-city.
If you averaged every hockey team, I think they'd have a really good average because everybody is kind of up there. But I think that
sure.
Yeah, I think, but that's kind of what you get when you play a game against them. Is it's not necessarily exciting. I don't know. I didn't necessarily see a lot from Jake Gensel last time, so he
did have the shootout winning goal though.
Yeah, and I think also a couple points. So. But yeah, I just mean to stand out a little bit more than he did. He's been there long enough that you should see him like in his true role, and yeah, we'll see. But I would hope for the Leafs to show up well. They actually I'm not sure. This is just my general feeling, but I don't necessarily worry about the Leafs on a back-to-back. It's typically like the first game that they normally shit the bed. So yeah, we'll see how they come out. Maybe the stats totally prove me wrong there, but that's my vibe when I think of back-to-backs with the Leafs.
Yeah, well, hopefully they stay strong because they really came out flying tonight, and they can get another W against Carolina Hurricanes, because that we need to see. These games at this point are like a litmus test. You need to find out, is it basic? Is it acidic? What are we doing here? Is this going to work? And I think Carolina and Edmonton are really 2 good measuring stick teams. If you can play them back-to-back, it's kind of playoff style. I just think that that's who really defines playoff hockey going into the season, is that boring, grinding, low event style. And I think with the additions of Kuznetsov and Gensel, that Carolina, is a team that you should be measuring yourself up against. Now they don't have a whole ton of stars, but stars don't always get you anywhere. So I'd like to see how this team does, because the last game against the Carolina Hurricanes was fucking terrible. So hopefully this works out better, but we will be back tomorrow after that one and give you our thoughts all about that. For now, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. Hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube, and please rate and review the show. You can find us on X at STDP Hockey, and Split the Defense on all other socials. See you tomorrow night. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Split the Defense.
Split the Defense.
Leafs Postgame Edition. Hosted by Jordan Webster, Craig Pearce, and producer Ted Evans. Split the Defense is presented by LaForest Electrical Contractors. Professional and efficient service since 2004. Serving the Kingston and surrounding areas.